Hello, guys. Welcome back to Matrix Labs podcast. Today, I'm here with my friend Michael. Michael is also one of my professors in college right now, and we are going to be doing a podcast on business. Michael, thank you very much for taking the time to come on the podcast. I'm very grateful for your time and the opportunity to speak with you on business.
No problem. Thanks for having me today.
All right, so we'll dive straight into it.
Let's do it.
So our first set of questions start with background and inspiration. What inspired you to pursue a career in business and teaching?
Okay. Well, the business thing, okay, let me rewind a bit. Ever since I was a kid, right, wanted to have things, right? Kids want toys, they want stuff, or they want things, right? So how can I get what I want, right? And my parents didn't really give me things, so I was trying to find ways of getting things and not stealing, stuff, but right. So it's like, okay, earning money. So at one point when I was a kid, I was selling rocks to people. And I know it sounds probably kind of sleazy, but there was a baseball diamond across the street from my house. And so I would go around collecting some rocks. And I was a kid, I was 5 or 6 years old. And I would paint some smiley faces on them and stuff. And then when adults were out playing baseball and having their baseball tournaments, I'd go out there and show these rocks off to the wives and the people that were sitting watching the baseball games, and I'd make a few bucks, and then I'd go get that toy or something that I wanted, right? But that whole idea of doing something and being in charge of my own earning, that came from a young age of just wanting to get things, right? So as I've gotten older, right, the same mentality, that hasn't really changed much, in the sense that if I want to be in control, I have to go and do it for myself, right?
Absolutely.
There's nothing wrong with having a job, right? And business doesn't suit everybody. There's risks involved, and it's not easy. It's tough. But when you get a job, your paycheck is completely dependent on the employer's willingness to pay you.
Yeah,
if they don't pay you, if they close down, whatever, right? There's all kinds of issues there. At the end of the day, you are trusting that you're going to get paid for your work.
Yeah.
And with business, right, you're in control, right? And so that's kind of what started the whole thing, was being in control of where the money's coming from and what. I created the prices for the rocks, right?
Yeah.
How much did I want to value the rocks at? If I wanted $10 a rock, well, I wasn't going to sell any, right? But if, for $1 a rock, people said, sure, here you go. And if I had 5 rocks, I made $5. Yeah, not bad, right?
That's incredible.
For some rocks as a 10-year-old or whatever, it's all right. So that's kind of how that started. I hope that kind of answers things for you a little bit. So that was
No, it does.
the business end of things. Teaching wise, that came more about when I had kids of my own, and teaching them how to function and do things and whatever. And having kids is, again, not for the faint-hearted,
Yeah.
And then I kind of realized, okay, I could help teach young people how to get what they want in their life too, right? And this idea of you come into a college and stuff, you're paying for this education, and I want you to get what you're paying for. I want to give students the time and the effort that they require to make sure that they're getting something valuable from this, right? And I didn't get that very much when I was a student. I got a lot of teachers that really didn't care, right? I got those ones that are like, oh yeah, you hand me that test, get out, right? Gone, done. Questions, we're not answering questions right now, shut up. And that was it.
They treat it like purely a job, like no passion for it.
Sure, yeah, exactly, right? And so being that I'm in business for myself, the financial side of it doesn't bother me as much. Whether I feel like I'm paid here well or not, it doesn't matter to me. I feel that I'm here for the students, to teach them something. So my paycheck is not my priority. And I think that's very different from me compared to a lot of people and a lot of teachers, where they care about their vacation time, they care about the union and the paycheck and whatever, because for them it is a job, right? That's their main focus. And for me, the main focus is the student. So it's just very different in how I approach it, I think. So that's kind of how I got into teaching. I felt I could really do some good with it, and here I am. So that's that.
I'm sure a lot of students benefit from your passion for teaching and
I hope so.
It really makes a huge difference. I know it does for myself, and I can relate to a lot of your experiences in terms of that.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I've heard that from other students that they're surprised that I care and that when they ask questions that I don't just tell them shut up, it's a test. No, you're here to learn, right? Even if it's a test, if you have a question, I'd rather help and I'd rather answer it because the goal is for you to learn it, not for me to test you and fail you,
Yes.
right? So if we keep the goal in mind, learning, then I'm not worried about answering questions during a test. I'm not just going to hand you the answer because you don't learn if I hand you the answer. But if I can help you find the answer, that's success.
Yes.
Right? So whether it's test day or not, I approach it the same. Right? That's my attitude on it. Anyway, hope that helps.
No, absolutely it does. I'm sure there's viewers out there that'll really appreciate your perspective on it, and perhaps like whether they're in school or looking to start their own business or currently doing both. Like, yeah.
Yep.
I'll be moving on to my second question.
Sure. I'm sure there's some more business in here.
Oh yeah. Can you share a memorable experience from your career that significantly shaped your views on business?
My views on business. Oh wow. There's been a lot of them. Okay, so a lot of the jobs that I got, I was an auto mechanic, and one of my first jobs was in a small shop, right, which was run by the owner, right? So he owned his own business, and I spent a lot of time with him and working with him and stuff. And when you get to know somebody who runs their own business and how they do things, you start to learn why things are the way they are, right? Because to someone who's just driving by, they don't fully understand what goes on in that auto shop.
Oh yeah.
And sometimes you look at something and go, that doesn't make sense, or that's kind of silly. But then when you talk to the owner and you figure out, oh, it's because of whatever, it makes the whole picture look a lot less silly, right? Yeah, I hope that makes sense.
No, it does.
Yeah, so there was a lot of pivotal moments for me listening to other people, right, and their business experiences and things.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, this idea of if you want something, you're going to have to find a way to get there, right? You can't rely on someone else to direct it, right?
I know a lot of people that they'll always, you'll have people that want things, and there's everyone wants things, but it's like, how bad do you want it?
Definitely,
And
yeah.
when it comes to business, it's like, what lengths are you willing to go to achieve that success and reach that level of financial freedom?
Yeah, exactly. One of the things someone said to me, and I know he wasn't the original quote, person, but he had said it to me. It stuck. Was spend a few years living like nobody will to spend the rest of your life living like nobody can.
Wow,
In that sense of like, if it takes you 2 or 3 years of grinding hard,
Yes.
living in some crappy basement apartment, and just head down, focused on the business you want to build and where you're going, right? Then you get that lifestyle where now you got choices, right?
Yeah.
Now you're not having to do that grind anymore, right? Now you're not going to live paycheck to paycheck, right? But you live in that rough patch for a few years. And most people really can't tolerate just a few years. They don't realize that that's all it would take. But they get into their head about, oh, I've got a job now, I can afford a little bit better, right?
Yes.
So they move up in the world themselves, but then they get stuck because their job pays a certain amount, and then that's where they're at.
And
They're
especially
living at that level, right?
you reach a level with salaries too, and then there's more security involved, and it leaves people thinking, okay, why should I leave this and go out and start something of my own?
Sure.
Which-
And even if it's a good paying job, let's say you're making 80K a year or something like that, or 100K a year. Like, okay, that's a good living. You're gonna have a perfectly fine life, but you're not gonna get the Lamborghini, and you're not gonna have the mansion in Florida to visit during the winter, right? So there's that cap, and like you said, like people have to decide how far they're willing to go to get the dream. And everybody's dream is different too. Like I'm not a Lamborghini guy, so to me, I don't need that. But I want to go fishing every weekend during the summertime and spend time with my kids. Okay, well then I need some kind of flexible lifestyle that allows me that time as well as the money for the fishing boat or the trip. or whatever, right? So as much as our goals are different, everybody's goals cost money, right? And if they don't cost money, they cost time,
Yes.
right? It's like, oh, my goal is just to stay home and have time and peace. Fine. But you're going to have food, which costs money, and then time. So that's the problem with a job, again, is you're trading time for money, right? It's always time in, money comes out, right?
And time is I wouldn't say even but probably the most valuable asset you have.
Agreed.
More than money, because you can't get it back.
Yeah, I think it's one of the biggest societal problems actually is people don't value their time properly. And I think that just comes with a little bit of practice and maybe even understanding. People will sit on their phone and play I see these games, right, with like solitaire games and stuff, right? And not that I play any of them. I don't waste my time playing them personally, but people will play them to try to get like that bonus, or whatever, right? It's like, oh, if I win, I get $10, or if I do this, I get like a prize.
Yeah.
Right? Okay, now let's think about this for a second. The prize is, let's say, worth $30.
Yeah.
Okay, how many hours did you spend playing on your phone, like days and days sitting there playing it to try to win the prize?
There's the psychology behind it.
You're right, and it's, oh, I can get this thing for free. It's like, it's not actually free because you've spent days of your time trying to earn this prize. And if you had gone to your job for an hour, you could have bought it.
Oh yeah.
Right? A $30 an hour job, you could have bought the prize for 1 hour's worth of work. But you spent a lot more time playing on your phone, right? Because you didn't value your time properly, right? You sat there playing thinking, I'm spending time doing this game. And sure, maybe the game's more fun than work, granted. But people see it as they're spending their time trying to earn something, when really they're spending their time. They're spending that money, right, on a $30 prize. That's crazy to me.
It is.
Right? But people do it all the time. Right?
You see it with social media, not even just games. The way I see it is like any form of entertainment, anything that there's something I go by is be a creator, not a consumer.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and like when I see it, when you say like the solitaire games, like I'd wrap that up as even just gambling, whether you're earning a small prize for free or you're in a casino actually gambling big time. And you know, like it would be better to do stocks instead of that, because now in stocks you have a level of it's calculation based on real world scenarios, where in gambling it's like you're almost destined to lose. And when it comes to like big companies, corporations, I'm sure you're very aware of this already, like Apple, even the people who make these games, they don't let their families or their kids come anywhere near this stuff ever. They keep it very far away from them, and they will never let them near it at all, because they know what it's capable of.
Yeah.
They know what it's doing to the average consumer who lacks the knowledge. And even if they do have the knowledge, maybe they're making poor choices of indulging in these forms of entertainment.
Well,
cheap dopamine is
cheap dopamine, exactly. And you know what, there's something to be said for the entertainment value, because it's one thing to be entertained. We all require a certain level of entertainment. You can't just work all the time. Like, you know, sure, during those that grinding period when you're starting a business, there's a lot of work for sure. But you need to have downtime. You have to have hobbies. You got to have fun. I'm not saying don't have fun, but are you playing the game to have fun, or are you trying to win this $30 prize and you're spending your life trying to earn this nothing?
I'm wondering, like, where's the discipline?
Discipline, that's really a good word for it. Exactly. It's like, okay, decide. All right, I'm going to play the game for 20 minutes and have some downtime. Great. Play a game. Play any game for 20 minutes. I was a big Zelda fan. You know, I used to love playing Zelda. It was a great video game, I thought. You know, all the challenges and puzzles, great stuff. But you can't let it take control of you.
Yeah.
Right? It's like, I really want to get to this next stage, but okay, I've played for a little bit and it's back to work time, or whatever. Or I need to get to bed on time because I need to get up and I need to get back on track. Right? So there's nothing wrong with entertainment. But like you're saying, like gambling and stuff. People that go to a casino thinking that they're gonna earn money or earn a living, it's just not a great habit to have, right? Go take $100, decide that's your limit, go to the casino, have a good time. When the $100 is gone, you're done. If you're making money, set a time limit. I'm here for 2 hours. Okay. You spent 2 hours at the casino, you didn't lose. Good job. You had a great time. Move on. It's right, it's getting sucked in, and the lack of discipline, that becomes an issue.
Oh yeah,
Right.
and I've learned too when it comes to certain habits too. This is a thing in drug addiction. They say like the more times you relapse, the more likely it'll become more difficult for you to break the habit.
Sure.
So once you quit a bad habit, and this is not just for substances, this is for any habit that a person out there would want to change for themselves. I believe like once you do stop it, and there is no breaking bad habits. You can, or habits in general, you can only replace habits.
Mhm.
So everyone has to decide to carefully pick and choose a form of healthy habits that work for them, that help them grow.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah, like getting to bed on time. It's so tempting to stay up till midnight watching, some TV show or something like that. It is entertaining, granted, but like getting that good night's sleep so you can get up at a good time so you can start your productive day is worth so much more.
Oh yeah.
And it's a discipline thing. Like you said.
Especially as a business owner too, like if you're not going to bed on time, like it's and entrepreneurs, business owners, we tend to work over the clock
Definitely,
on
yeah.
most days, and that's when you have to be careful, because if your health is wealth. So
Mhm.
if your health plummets, like wealth will mean nothing when you do eventually make it to the level you want to go to.
Yeah, oh yeah, and burnout and stuff like that.
Oh,
It's a real thing. You got to take care of yourself. But like, as much as I say getting to bed on time, I'm not saying you can't work until 2 in the morning. Some people do function just fine and they work. And I remember when I started my first business with my wife, girlfriend at the time, well, fiance. Complicated. We'll get to that story.
Okay.
But when we started our first business together, um, basically we were doing these all-nighters, trying to grind it out and get this stuff done, whatever. Which we made it work. Was it the best idea? Probably not. But we had to cram, we had to get it done, we had deadlines, we had to meet. So we stayed up late, got stuff done, right? And that was fine. We didn't have any problem staying up until midnight. But then the next day, we weren't trying to get up at 6 and then go to some kind of meeting or do something else. The midnight or the all-nighter we pulled, we were sleeping in the next day, right? So kind of replacing that time, like we got that thing managed and finished. Then we went back, took care of ourselves, got some rest, got started over now, right? So I'm not saying you have to go to bed at 10 o'clock to be healthy. You can go to bed at midnight, but then you can't wake up at 6 and expect to function properly, right? You got to wake up at 8 or whatever, right?
I believe everyone should have a goal on like a time they believe that works for them. I know many people out there, like like the people who want things but they're not doing anything to go for it. They don't have such goals as to, okay, I want to wake up at this time so I can spend X, Y, and Z amount of time
Right.
doing the things that will drive me closer to my goals.
Right. Yeah, it is about the goal setting, right? Have a goal and then work backwards, right? It's like, how many hours is this going to take to achieve? Okay, so then what time do I have to get up? Okay, so then what time do I have to go to bed? And it just keeps on going back to eventually you're making a choice now to get there, right? And the appropriate time that you want to achieve it, right?
I'm sure you're familiar with even like early risers, and
Yeah.
like you can find this stuff like all over the internet now. Everyone's algorithm is different, so like you see a lot of people say it openly. Like you used to think sleeping late was cool. I'm guilty of that as well. But now I've realized like if you can wake up anywhere from 1 to 7 a.m. and really like get on with your day, you're a lot more likely to get a lot of things done, a lot of
Sure.
important goals and tasks.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. For a lot of stuff for myself, like I tried doing like the 5 a.m. club kind of deal, like, getting up at 5. And my wife still does on a regular basis. And nothing wrong with that at all. She gets up, generally does some kind of workout routine, gets herself going. And myself, I don't generally wake up that early because I find that how long it takes me to get to a point of needing to get work done and then needing to make phone calls to places. Nobody's up and nothing's open. I can't communicate with other businesses right now. They're not open. So it's kind of like I start working almost at like regular office hours. Um, I don't start working. Like I get stuff done. I work on the website. I work on whatever I can do, before other companies open up. But then I've got emails and calls and stuff that I got to send out. I'm hoping that stuff gets answered that same day. I start banging that out first thing like 9 a.m. These places should be open. I'm able to call them now and get going, right? But all that time period before the 9 a.m., right? It's basically just prep. And I don't find that I need, 5 a.m. worth of prep. I can get up at 7 and get what I need done in a day. I'm at that point now, at least, that's what I like to do. So 7 a.m. rise works for me, right? Whereas it won't work for everybody.
Yeah.
Some people have a lot more stuff they got to do in the morning, right? All right, get up early. Do the 5 a.m. Do 4 a.m. if you want to, right? Like you were saying, anything between 1 o'clock and 7 o'clock, great.
I think like organization is also a big part of it. You seem to have a great deal of organization when it comes to time management. Me, I'm still working on that because I catch myself, I'm all over the place, and you know, I'm still battling with myself when it comes to, oh, I'm still young and I got time to hurt myself a little bit. So, like, not sleeping on time, and because when I'm older, I won't be able to do all these things like, I won't have the thinking power, the physical energy that I have now at my youth ages.
Sure, yeah.
So,
All the more reason to start a business when you're young too.
oh, yeah.
I've always said that to people. It's like now is a great time for the risk factor because you're younger, you can handle the additional strain and the longer hours and all this other stuff that comes with it, the stresses that comes with it. I think you're better suited to it when you're younger. Whereas if you're like 60 years old and you're concerned about your fund, your money and your retirement and stuff, it's like, well, you're less likely to take those chances and those risks, and you're not able to stay up all night and pound out something, right? So younger is the way to go, in my opinion, as much as it's a scary thing.
Yeah.
You've got so much more time to recover and you've got more energy to do it. So
Oh, yeah.
definitely pursue when you're younger.
You know, I battle with this thing. It's very unfortunate. Like, I guess I hold on to the good things and be grateful for it. Like how you were saying on the first question too, like from a young age with selling rocks and all, like I would I would be back. I used to get Hot Wheel cars. I used to trade them, not for money, but when I look back and see how I've come to my business is nowhere near the success I want it to be for photography, videography, but just I was learning the skills that good business owners have, such as communication, sales, marketing, and I guess like and I used to get in a lot of trouble for it too. My mom would be mad at me. She'd be buying me things and she would think, oh, I'm giving them away to people. I guess like the failures and mistakes that I made, trusting the wrong people, it's developed me in a way, and I certainly can't keep repeating those mistakes. I give everyone a fair chance to show me who they are, and sometimes I love to see like people's true colors. And when it comes to like me, I was very rebellious. I made a lot of poor choices. I didn't I guess I'm not really too sure how to disclose them, but I would get in a lot of trouble in school, out of school, stealing,
Yeah.
like and it was wrong. It was very wrong, and to this day, like I'm very grateful that I had a lot of the information accessible at my fingertips. So then, like starting a business, trying to achieve that level of financial freedom, and if I'm being fully honest with you, I haven't been doing everything I possibly can because I need to organize my time better. I've been told a lot to set smart goals, but like, see, I'm doing the podcast now. I have my small business. I'm trying to run all the social media pages for them.
It's a lot.
Yeah,
It's a lot.
and it's very difficult, and I'm willing to take that risk because I know I won't get these chances again.
Yeah.
And like something to add on to like when you were saying, telling us about like becoming a teacher and why you're passionate about it and why you love it so much. Like my father would tell me too that, and this might touch a lot of students out there. It's that if you don't show your teachers that you're interested, they will. Everyone has their limitations. They will, when and if they notice that, they will slowly lose their interest and trying to help you as much as they possibly can.
Sure.
Right? So I guess I don't know if you have anything to add before we move on to the next one.
I don't know. Not offhand. I don't know. Let's see what's the next question. We'll keep it rolling.
So the next set of questions is on education and learning.
Okay.
How do you think college education prepares students for the realities of the business world?
It's an interesting question. In a lot of ways, and I hope this isn't taken wrongly, but in a lot of ways, I think it really doesn't. In a sense that the college itself is a business.
Yes.
Most people don't think of it that way.
Oh, yeah.
But it's really what it is, right? They're bringing in money, they're giving you a service, right? As far as how it really prepares students, like I don't teach the college business programs or anything like that, right? I do the auto stuff and the tools and all that stuff. So I imagine their business classes would prepare students somewhat for business. But at just a generalized college level, I think the college prepares people a lot more for just the workforce, right? It's here's basic information. You get the piece of paper, which makes you more desirable to an employer, and then you go out to get a job, basically. So you become part of that workforce. I don't think it really lends itself to creating anything, right? To creating an entrepreneur, right? I don't think the college generally advises people on taking risks and things like that. I think, in general, the college has more of a mentality of safety first, right? And making sure that we're all following the rules, right? So in a sense, I think that the college doesn't promote business generally. I don't know. What are your thoughts on that? What do you think?
Like I've been looking really deep into this, and my experience revolving around this is that people, I think the biggest thing a person has, like you can find this in Rich Dad Poor Dad, book by Robert Kiyosaki. He even
Great
says
book.
like an abundance of money will not solve people's problems. People think that an abundance of money will make a lot of their problems go away.
It's all
but
up here.
it's all
mindset.
so the knowledge and
Yeah.
it really says. Have you read this book?
I have.
So
Many
you
times.
already know where I'm heading with it. Like
Yeah, absolutely. It's a great book.
it's the wisdom and it's the abundance of knowledge, like you said, what's up here. And like it's very difficult to tell whether the people in higher powers are trying to take this away from us and cover it up with things that show as good, because the average person, like my family out there, they, and nothing against them, they've done everything for me, they've sacrificed for me, but I would always wish that they would understand why it is so important to have any kind of business foundation experience at a young age, like we were discussing earlier. And by the time I'm older, it's like I don't want to. I need the experience I'm having now, because I cannot afford to make those mistakes later.
Yeah.
And like you said, everything up here. And how do you get that? you can learn in a school, but experience is a major part of it. You can find a lot of
Yeah,
people,
definitely.
they get jobs that people with degrees wouldn't be able to get only because they lacked the experience. And business owners, they want people who have experience in a particular field.
For sure. As a business owner and an educator myself, I put a lot less pressure on that piece of paper. For me, it's not nearly as valuable as it is for a lot of big companies when they're trying to pick through thousands of applicants, like let's just say the bank, right? TD Bank. Like, okay, you're going to have a university diploma of some kind in some field to just apply there, right? And to me, that's just backwards thinking. You could have someone who's incredibly gifted with math. You could have somebody who's just very gifted when it comes to time management, right? And that kind of thing. That can be a very valuable employee, but they're completely, you know, um, unseen, to a large corporation because of that lack of paper, right? And I think that's wrong in general, So myself being a business owner, I really try to look at the individual for what they can bring to the table, regardless of what that education has given them, because anyone can learn anything if they want to,
Yes.
right? So like you said, it's a mindset thing. It comes to the knowledge thing. You could hand the book Rich Dad Poor Dad to somebody and completely change how they go about the other things they're doing in their life, right?
Yeah.
And that person who's read that book and understands that mentality is more valuable, in my opinion, than someone who's not read the book but has got a college education in tools.
Yeah.
Right? But for TD Bank, they want that college education. They want that piece of paper as a qualification. And I don't think it qualifies for as much as people believe it does, if that makes sense. Um, but something that you kind of brought up, right? How the people around you and how difficult it is trying to explain to them, and they're kind of frustrated with you or upset that you're not following more of a traditional path, right? And I think that if you do normal things, you do what everyone else does, you get what everyone else has.
Yeah.
Right?
Absolutely.
So if you want a life that's different than the average person, you can't do the average stuff, right?
Yeah.
So when you're on the hard path and everything's kind of pushing against you and you got a lot of people telling you that, oh, I don't like what you're doing,
Yeah.
it's probably a hint you're doing something right, honestly.
No, I really love how you said that.
Yeah, because generally that's the case, right? Where it's like people see what you're doing and it scares them because it's not typical, but you'll get atypical results.
I was thinking, and it's, and it's very hard when it comes from people who are genuine, they're close to you, like friends, even business partners. Like, you might be like, what the heck, like, saying like, right now it's very much the digital era. I want to start a bank, and if you do this alone, you might honestly like have a 1% chance at succeeding. At least the chance is there. It's not impossible.
Sure.
But if I could have a team, some friends who would actually look at this and be like, okay, how are you gonna make it possible? I'll do what I can to help. Like, it would increase the odds. 2% is better than 1.
Definitely.
And like, I got into an argument with a good friend about this. He told me, he's like, oh, I don't want that type of bank, like, because something digital. He wants a physical location. I told him, that it'll be way too much money right now with coding, AI, everything available. Like, you can create something, and I for you and the viewers, like, I've left it on hold, honestly.
Yeah.
I'm honestly not sure who to talk to about it. I'm not sure what I'm gonna do with it, and because in my mind, like, the creative aspect of it, there's so many things I can pursue that my odds are better in having success. So I'm trying to focus on those things.
Sure. And to be fair, it's one of those things where when it comes to business, right? Like let's just say, I'm just throwing out, let's say you have a 10% chance of succeeding in your business. Okay. So the odds are already stacked against you. But when you have a business owner's mentality, when you've got that entrepreneurial mindset, right? The first business is not the last business. right? So I've started what, 5 or 6 now, something like that.
That's incredible.
Different businesses, and the first one had its issues. We learned from it, we adapted, we changed, right? And then we decided, well, we're not liking this, how this is going. This is taking a lot of our time. It's it's not as lucrative as we thought. But we learned so many lessons from it. Got rid of that business, started a new thing that was now we were ignited in our passion for business with this new idea. Took those lessons, started the next idea, kept the ball rolling, right? Now, fast forward, yes, I've had multiple businesses that are technically failures by statistics standpoints. But they weren't failures because we learned so many things. We changed, we pivoted, we adapted. Now we have successful businesses, right? So as far as the statistics, I've got more failures than I have successes, technically. But I'm quite successful now in the sense that I'm sitting back with more than one company and we're not having any of the problems we used to have because of how we've changed, right? So with your idea, right, you've put it on hold, and that's a great way to put it. You haven't quit, you haven't said no to it, it's on hold, you're gonna learn more, you're gonna figure out more, and you might find that when you start it back up again, it still doesn't go the way you hoped.
Oh yeah.
Pivot, change, adapt, you can make anything work if you keep at it. It might not work the way you thought it was going to work, right? It might not look the way you thought it was going to look.
Oh yeah.
I know a lot of people start with like an Amazon store, and they think, oh, I'm going to sell this product, and I think it's going to work out great. Okay, fast forward a couple of years, they still sell on Amazon. They don't sell that first product anymore.
Yeah.
That product did not work out how they thought. It didn't go the way they thought. Shipping it cost more than they thought. Who knows? There could be 100 reasons, but they changed what they were doing and adapted.
The same friend that I was having the argument with on that particular business idea, he's a really great friend of mine, really great business partner as well. And he reminded me of something when we were discussing a similar topic on failures. He mentioned that because the failures are way more valuable. They're like gold than your success.
Yeah.
And I don't know, maybe you want to add to that on why.
Oh, hard to know exactly, well, as to say why, but people get hung up on failure, and they really shouldn't, right? It's this idea that failure is a learning opportunity. It's an opportunity sitting right in front of you to take something away from it, right? So, in my opinion, the true definition of a failure is when it didn't work out and you didn't learn.
Yes.
That's a failure. Right? That's as bad as it gets.
Yeah.
If you learn something, wasn't a failure anymore, right? Now it's progress, right? It's a stepping stone, right? It's just progress. That's all it is. It takes a lot of stepping stones, a lot of progress to eventually get to where you want to be. But you can't just poof into it.
Oh yeah.
Right? There's stepping stones for everybody, right? And a lot of people too, I think they see guys out there like Elon Musk or Jeff Bezos, guys like that, right? And it looks like they had these big successes, right? And we don't know the whole backstory of how many other things they tried or how many things didn't go well, right? Tim Hortons, that franchise, right? He had started so many businesses, Tim Horton, the man.
Wow.
Tons and tons of flopped businesses and ideas and things and whatever. Now he's got this coffee shop and it's huge, right? It worked out. Because I imagine, I don't know for sure, but I imagine he learned something from all the other businesses he started, and then this final one, he did it, it worked, right? So he didn't give up. He kept changing and pivoting and making it work, right? He forced his ideas forward, right? So that's all you can do. That is business. And to go back to your idea about like a bank, right? There's so much more digital stuff now, so much more online. People trust online way more than they used to.
Yeah.
It used to be one of those things where no one would ever hand their money across the internet, right? It's like that was ridiculous, right? And now, we all use Amazon, right? You check out with PayPal, we do that kind of stuff, right? eBay. And people don't think twice about using money online. Apple Pay, right? That's a thing now. Having digital currencies, right? So I don't think your idea is unfounded. There's probably a lot of different hoops to jump through. Every business has its hardships, right? So I'm not saying it's easy. I'm just saying that, I think that the world's kind of heading that way, honestly, in digital stuff. And I know myself, some of my businesses, we're in Canada, And my businesses, some of them are in the United States. So I use US banks for that stuff. The one US bank I work with, I've never been inside their building before. I'm not sure they actually have a physical location. It was done completely through a brokerage and over the phone, okay? So all my banking is done online. It's all online banking, so I can track transactions, all that stuff, right? Most of us bank online now, right? But that's a business bank account, right? That's doing hundreds of thousands of transactions, right? And I've never been inside that building, if there even is one.
And people would be shocked. Like, I have another good friend too. And me and my previous business partner I mentioned, we've been trying to get him on board with business. And it almost feels like we've given up on trying, but really we're just trying to stay focused on what our ordeals are, and when our friend is ready, we'd love to get him on board. And it's like, someone would look at that, and like I've been told too, it's like, oh, how are you gonna open an LLC in a country you've never even been to? And like it's not even like, it's just like, where are you telling me your information from? Are you just telling me from your experience of life in general, or is there anywhere specific that, like, you're telling me it's not possible? Because me, I'm not just making these things up in my head. As a believer where nothing's impossible, there's always a way you can do things. And when it comes to like that, like, you'll have a lawyer who will pose their building as an address for you.
Yep.
And
Exactly
when I was told that, honestly, I couldn't decide whether I was right or wrong. I just, like, I couldn't decide if I was disappointed, or like, maybe my friend just doesn't know and I should share the information with them. And it is really like,
Yeah.
if you really want to do it bad enough, you will find a way, even if you don't
Exactly.
have to set foot in that place.
Exactly, yeah. If you want it bad enough, you'll find a way. There's ways to manage everything. And sometimes it's not easy, right? It's a difficult way to go. And then when you look back on it, you go, man, I could have made that a lot easier than I did.
Yes.
In hindsight, right? Now if you knew those things, right? But something like that, right? Like getting an LLC in another country. Yeah, it can easily be done. But when your buddy comes and says he's got all these concerns, right? Oh, what about this? What about this? What about that? Just write them all down, find the answers, right? It's like, okay, that's a legitimate concern. How are we gonna do it? I don't know. We'll figure it out.
He actually tells me that. He's like, why? He's like, Yash, you have to understand, a good friend would just tell you, oh, no, not a good friend. A good friend is gonna ask you those things, like you said, the legitimate concerns. But he was like, a bad friend, and I had to tell him, he's honestly 100% correct. A bad friend would just tell you to go ahead and do it. Oh, you can, like, they, with no backing. But a friend who's genuinely concerned is gonna ask you endless loops of questions.
Exactly, yeah.
I guess that's a problem where I face with myself. It's like, while I'm trying to tackle all these things, now I'm already trying to search for so many answers, and now I need to find an extra deal of answers. And I don't know if you've ever dealt with this yourself, but it puts you in a little bit of a conundrum. And
It does. There's been plenty of, sleepless nights where I'm laying there trying to get to bed and I'm mulling over something and I'm coming up with more things that, more issues, right? More problems. And the problems just keep stacking and stacking. And that's any business though. Because eventually, and I've done this to myself, right? The problems stack up to the point where it's like, geez, I should just pick something else. Go ahead and pick a different business. The problems will just stack up with that business, right? So, and I'm not saying that, that there's a business out there that doesn't have less problems.
Yes.
Some do. Some are easier than others, but every business has got their issues you have to somehow overcome, right?
Oh, yeah.
So you might as well pick something you're interested in, passionate about, that will keep you motivated to achieve. That will make dealing with the problems that much easier, right? Like myself, like I like classic cars, right? I have no problem looking through Marketplace for classic cars because it's fun, right? So the same idea that if you pick a business that you're genuinely interested in, at least when you're having to research the different problems and things, at least you're trying to figure out how to get something that you really like or you want, and you're digging further into a topic you like in most cases, right? Whereas if you were trying to look up, you know, how to open an LLC in Delaware
Yeah.
for a laundromat, and you don't care about owning a laundromat, like you're not going to be motivated to do it, right? But if it's something you're motivated for, something you really are wanting, it makes looking up that stuff and dealing with those issues easier, I think, right? I don't know. That's my 2 cents.
No, I understand. Like, there are certainly ways you can make it easier to, like, everything is difficult at first. It's like, are you going to take the risks to, like, there are some things in life that you'll spend your whole life trying to master. You may never reach that level of mastering it. And
Yeah.
I think trying alongside enjoying the journey,
Yeah.
person who enjoys the journey travels further than the person who just wants to reach the destination.
Sure. Yeah.
And yeah.
Yeah, and well, just constantly trying to be better, right? Constant improvement. Will you ever master? Maybe not. But were you better than you were a year ago? Yeah, probably, right? If you just keep working at it and chipping away at it. That's all it's about. It's just constant improvement. Eventually you get somewhere you want to be, right? Maybe you're not master, but you're somewhere closer. So,
Oh yeah. Getting closer is very important.
absolutely, yeah.
I need to hold on to that more often than just looking back at the negative things.
Yeah.
Moving on to my fourth
Go for
question.
it, yeah. I'm sorry, I know it's taking you a
No,
while.
no, don't worry. These things, like, they're very long. They take a lot of time. And
Okay,
no,
all right.
I'd
I don't
love
want to ram
give-
too much on. Here.
What do you believe is the most important skill students should develop to succeed in business?
Discipline, like you had brought up before. I think that is the number one skill. If students can show up every day to do some work on their business, right? Even if it's not fun, even if, they hate this part, they're tired, whatever it is. Discipline, show up and do the work and just keep showing up and keep trying and keep knocking down those problems, and eventually you'll get somewhere. That's how you succeed, is you just keep showing up and doing it, right? And there's lots of learning to do, right? There's pivoting that happens, right? Businesses take different courses because of whatever, right? But when you give up, right, or you decide, oh, I just don't feel like it today, that's when you start losing, because you don't feel like it. Oh, you know what? I'm just gonna go Netflix and chill. I'm done. No, that's when business starts to go bad, right?
Yeah.
When you start prioritizing other things, right?
You get comfortable in a sense.
Exactly, and that business will never take off. Whereas if you just the discipline, and it doesn't have to be 9-10 hours a day plus your part-time job. Like no, just show up, work on your business every day, and you will get somewhere. You will make progress, right? So I think discipline is just my number one answer for that, plain and simple.
I feel like you're very familiar with the concept of how comfort is one of the deadliest drugs.
Yeah.
Especially for all, both men and women out there, like, who
Yeah,
are looking
absolutely.
to do important things in life, take care of their families and run a business.
Yeah.
I'll be moving on to
Yeah,
my
go for it.
fifth question.
Sure. Yeah, that was a quick one.
It has to do with
Discipline.
yes, guys, discipline all the way.
Yeah.
You said it best. The next set of questions is on business trends and strategies.
Okay.
What are some emerging trends in the business world that students should be paying attention to?
Okay. So there's a few things here. So we all know that like the online world is growing and expanding, taking off, right? And that's why Amazon is so famous and so popular, and it continues to grow, right? And then we get things like Netflix and all these other things that people subscribe to, right?
Yeah.
These online subscriptions and stuff, right? And they continue to grow. So if you're going to do like a physical product or something like that, I think having an online marketplace is extremely important, right? That's the first thing. But if that's not what you're interested in, if you're interested in a service-based business, right, which plenty of people are interested in doing that, like lawn care, for example.
Yes.
Nothing wrong with a lawn care business. It's a great business, especially because it's easy to start. You got a lawnmower, you go out there and start cutting grass, right? It's very simple on its basic level, right? I think the trend to pay attention to with those businesses is actually the number of baby boomers, like the generation that's retiring, right? Because we've got a lot of people that have owned businesses for 40 years and they are ready to retire and move on, right? So like people my parents' age, my parents are in their late 60s, right? So anyone who's my parents' age and still working at their business or owning their business, they're they're 1 foot out the door, right? They're kind of done with it now. So it's a great opportunity for younger people, students and things to come in, and those older people, they probably have kids, probably have grandkids even. They are teachers themselves, no doubt. They want to talk, they want to share their business and their story. So you can go buy them a lunch and talk to them about their business and how to run a mechanic shop, a lawn care business, whatever it is you're interested in. And I think the baby boomer generation is one of these hidden gems right now, because then you don't have to try to start a business all on your own. You can find this older mentor who's been there, been doing it for a long time, and then possibly if they're interested in selling their business, I mean, not saying that every student be able to afford it, but there's always that chance to take over this business as well. And if that baby boomer has already got a bit of a rapport with you because you've taken him out for dinner and you've talked and you want to know about his business, and you're respectful, he's far more likely to then sell his business to you, give you a good price on it, help you even transition into running it. I think that's probably a great place to look, honestly. And I think a lot of people forget about people selling businesses.
Yeah.
Right? So that's my thinking. Yeah.
Well, that makes sense. I understand. We'll be moving on to the sixth question.
Go for it.
And then we'll take a halftime break.
All right.
So, how important is adaptability in business, and can you share an example of a company or individual who embodies this?
Ooh, okay. So adaptability, I think, is important for sure. Because if a business is just stuck doing one thing forever, and that works, for many, that works. But let's just say, for example, let's use something like Walmart. I'm just going to use them as an example, right? Huge box store. Okay. They have sold all kinds of different products over the years, right? But Walmart didn't always sell, Christmas stuff and automotive stuff. Like at one point they sold just clothes, and then they kind of grew from there. And I'm just, using them as an example, right? But they adapted and changed as their customers' needs adapted and changed, or they tried to grow into other markets and places and things, right? Walmart has their own online place for shopping, right? When COVID hit, right, companies had to either create some kind of like curbside pickup, right, or online ordering, right? So they had to be adaptable in that sense that if they didn't, they were just going to lose out to companies that were adapting to COVID and stuff, right? So adaptability is very important in that regard of making sure that you are filling the needs where where your customers' needs are. But in a sense, this hopefully doesn't sound contradictory. I don't mean it to be, but in a sense, you have to stick with what you do, right? Like,
I see.
Walmart's not a bookstore,
Yes.
right? So like Walmart is not trying to compete with Chapters,
Yeah.
right? Chapters is Chapters. People go to Chapters for books, right? In that sense. And so like, I'm not saying sell everything to everyone, because that generally doesn't work. It's like if you're a skateboarder and you sell skateboards, sell skateboards. You could sell skateboard wheels, you could sell skateboard apparel, fine. But don't go selling groceries, because your customer is skateboarders, right?
Oh, yeah.
So that doesn't really make sense. But if skateboarders start preferring long skateboards with big wheels instead of short skateboards, okay. So now pivot because your customers are asking you to change, right? So in order for your business to stay current, you have to adapt, right? So I hope that kind of makes sense, right?
No, it makes
Don't
sense.
spread yourself to customers that you don't have, but cater your customers and make sure you're adapting to their needs, right?
So it's like whether there's challenges within the businesses, challenges with competition, challenges that are out of your control, like COVID or
Yeah.
widespread disease. How would you overcome that essentially? And you've answered many different ways that companies try to tackle these issues and face these challenges head on.
Yep.
And other people can essentially do the same, whether they're a smaller business themselves.
Yeah. So I'll use the example of like the skateboarders, right? So we've got a skate shop. I don't know if you've ever been in one. I don't know if you're a skateboarder.
I'm familiar with a couple. Like,
Okay. Yeah.
I think I know skate shops that they sell like skateboard type like skater merch, but
Right.
not too much. Like they're a mix. I've never been to just a pure skateboard shop.
Well, and there aren't a whole lot of them around anymore, unfortunately, right? And
It's like where they do
because-
repairs and custom boards and stuff.
Yeah,
Those types.
so like exactly, right? You'd have like boards and they would build a board for you basically,
Wow.
right? You'd select, all right, I want these wheels, I want these bearings, right? I want this
Yeah.
stuff. And they put it all together for you. There's your board, right? Like that kind of thing doesn't happen as much anymore because the demand wasn't there, right? But everyone was interested in like skateboarding shoes and sweatshirts and stuff for a while, right?
Oh, the shoes with the wheels on them?
Oh no, like shoes that are like designed for skateboarding, so they've got like a toe
Okay.
that has like grip and stuff on them, whatever, right? But either way, and like the brand names too, right?
Yes.
You know, DC shoes was a big thing, right? That's a skateboard brand. So, the stores that used to sell boards and used to be more about sport became more about the apparel, right? And you find the clothing racks started taking over the store because that's where their customers were headed. They did a lot less actual skateboarding and a lot more wearing skateboarding t-shirts and clothing. And it became more of a fashion and a style, right? So, okay. And then you got other skate shops, which were just, you know, that kind of stuff, right? Just the boards. They didn't want to get into that, you know, kind of thing. Okay, well, those board shops closed down, you know, whatever, or they moved online, right? It's like, okay, well, having a building is not profitable anymore. I don't get enough business. So instead of selling skateboards at a physical location, they're trying to sell stuff online now, right? So they pivoted and moved in a different way, right? They had to adapt either way. One adapted by moving towards clothing, one adapted by moving towards online sales, right? To sell their skateboards. Right.
Especially like that would particularly be around a time when the internet was growing.
Sure, yeah. Well, like when I was a kid, I started skateboarding in the 90s.
I think social media was just starting to launch too.
It was, yeah. It was just getting there, like the, you know, the late 90s kind of thing. People were starting to do that kind of stuff. And skateboarding was becoming less and less popular, right? But the fashion trends and the clothing was becoming more popular. So that's the pivots that we started to see, right? So that kind of thing makes sense. That's the adaptability to me. It's they stuck with the same customers. It was still all about their customer, right? Let's just say the skater. His name's Joe. Okay, Skater Boy Joe. What is Skater Boy Joe like? What does he want? What does he do? That's who we are serving. That's our customer. Okay, well, Skater Boy Joe doesn't come in here buying skateboards anymore because he doesn't really ride skateboards anymore. But now he and all of his buddies want shirts and shoes and skater clothes. Okay, then that's what we're going to give them, right? And so that's how I think smart businesses adapt, by serving the same people, but catering to the needs as the needs change.
Welcome back, guys. We're back again, and we'll be continuing on with the questions.
Thanks for having me back.
Thanks for coming back. Challenges and opportunities in business. This is a very unique subject. What are the biggest challenges businesses face today, and how can young entrepreneurs address them, like myself?
Sure. Well, there's a lot of challenges. Thing is, this is going to sound really funny, but you don't know what you don't know, in that sense that you might go into a business. I certainly did with all of my businesses, thinking it was going to go a certain way or thinking I knew what would happen. And then a challenge pops up and I'm like, geez, I never considered that. And so honestly, all kinds of stuff that you didn't even think of will come out of the woodwork somehow. And even myself, who has started multiple businesses, I'm constantly learning. And I think that's part of how you can overcome it is listening to podcasts, listening to other people, different types of entrepreneurs from different walks of life. Because you're going to find that entrepreneur who's 75, when he started his business, it was a much different time. And a lot of the fundamentals that work still work. But now we've got all kinds of other things, right? Like Amazon out there, right? Huge internet store, right? That kind of thing wasn't around when that guy started his business. So the landscape has shifted. And I think the landscape shifts really quickly now, right? Like every year, new products are coming out, new stuff, there's new tech, right? So 30, 40 years ago, businesses didn't have to adapt nearly as quick, right? So in my opinion, it's a big part of it is being that adaptable, right? And flexible, and certainly not getting in your head about it. You're like, okay, this didn't work, move on, look at the next path. Constantly looking at YouTube, so trying to utilize some of these things too, right? Like I guess that's more the opportunity side of it, right? There's a lot of opportunities now because this information is so available, right? It used to be getting into business, you were either reading books or you had to have some kind of mentor. You had to know somebody who knew something about business, right? And even then, you were only getting that one person's point of view. Whereas now you got YouTube, you got podcasts. You can get into the world of business from multiple different sources, right? So there's a lot of opportunities. And I think branching out on the opportunities end of things, when you start thinking about the world in terms of business, you start seeing opportunities all over the place. Like I look in this room and I say, oh, I'm sitting on a chair that was made by a company. Absolutely. And the legs are made out of metal and the top's made out of plastic. It's possible they were made by two separate companies and then put together by another company.
Oh, yeah.
And then shipped by a company, right?
I really love how you think.
Right? And so I see the entire world that way only because I've been in it. Right? And when people say things to me like, oh, money doesn't grow on trees. No. Well,
how could I convince you that I look at the world in a similar way too? Not always, but sure, I try to.
I'm sure you do. It takes practice, but it's a certain type of mindset, right? Yes. And some people don't have it and some people do, right? And when people say things like money grows on trees, it's like, well, or doesn't grow on trees, I say it certainly does, right? People have bark mulch, right? You got paper, you got tree trimming and cutting, right? Landscaping.
You have to know how to plant the trees, and when it comes to finances, it's very
trees. People have orchards and farms. Money grows on trees, just not literally, right? And that's the thing. The money is actually everywhere when you see the opportunities. When you look for it in that sense, then you see it and you find it, right? So like someone who says, "Oh, I want to start a business selling books," be like, "Okay, there's no reason that can't work. It's not that this is an old idea and that's whatever." Might need some updating. If you're thinking you're going to sell books at a bookstore, okay, you got a whole list of challenges. If you think you're going to sell books on Amazon, you got a whole list of challenges, right? Whatever you want to do, there's a way to make a business out of it, right? The challenges are going to be unique to the business, so there is no one size fits all. Fix your challenges like that. It doesn't work. You're going to find them and just manage them as best you can, and pivot, wiggle. It's never a straight road ever. I think life isn't a straight road, really. Yeah. Well, not just business, right? But anyone who's gone growing up, right? Was it ever a straight path? No, never, right? The sooner people accept that it's not a straight path, the easier it gets, right?
Yeah.
So that's my 2 cents on it anyway.
I really love your insight. It's very beautiful. It's like everything about it is factual and it's like a lot of information. I'm very grateful to be sitting here.
Thank you.
And I really hope that like viewers would like learn everything they possibly can from your insights. As someone who's an experienced business owner themselves, like I don't know if I told you, but I'm into 3D printing.
You did mention that.
I launched
You did, yeah.
I didn't launch my website yet. I'm in the middle of trying to launch it.
I think still building it. It was a couple weeks ago when we looked at the website.
I think that was my photo video one.
Oh yes, yeah, it was. I'm sorry, yes.
I'm trying to do the 3D printing one using the WordPress AI and all. I'm really hoping it works out because I'm trying to like offer a bunch of different services, prototyping.
Sure.
Like 10 different ones.
That's another one. I imagine that question will probably come up at some point, but like using the tech and the AI and stuff, like,
Yeah.
you know, at this point, like you have to utilize it if you can, right?
Yeah.
It's complicated and stuff at first, but like, and like Chat GPT and stuff like that, right? It's like, okay, I wanted to draft an email to a guy. Great. I asked Chat GPT what it should look like. It gave me a rough outline and then I just tweaked it. And I was like, that sounded really good when I was
Or
done.
even if you could write, yeah, there's so many ways you can go about it. Like, even sometimes I've written, you can give it a small piece or a big piece.
Mhm.
Whether you write the email yourself, it can refine it. It can write it for you, like you said.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah, I just, you know,
And
changed a
it's-
few little things until it sounded more like what I was trying to say. And then at the end of it, I'm reading it going, that took me 5 minutes. And I sent, okay, so yeah, so it took me 5 minutes and it sounded professional. It conveyed what I wanted to say, right, in the correct manner. And I sent it off to my supplier and there we go, right? I didn't have to sit there trying to write and rewrite and then get in my head about this doesn't sound good or doesn't sound professional. No, it sounded professional right from the template I started with and I just tweaked, right? So utilizing the tech, I think, is a great thing to do. Absolutely.
Is there any other tech that you'd recommend? You have phones, then AI's everywhere. You have computers. I know when tech is, I think the people who create it are trying to leverage it in a way where they don't necessarily want their consumers to know about these things, certain things.
Sure. So the tech I utilize the most, and this is just myself, I guess, like I'm not really a tech kind of person. Like I like classic cars and stuff. I like using
Yeah.
my hands, right?
Recall
Um,
that.
yeah, like, you know, I'm not really into the really techy stuff, but at the same time, to just be as efficient as I can be, you know, there are certain things like email marketing, things like that.
Yes.
You can use tech to blast out emails all over the place, right? All kinds of social media and digital stuff, right? It just makes life so much easier when you understand what you're doing. It takes a little bit of practice, you know, maybe you goof up, you know, one or two, but
Yeah.
um, once you get that down and then you have stuff automated, I think automation really, like, right now I've got stuff doing things and I'm sitting here talking to you. And right in the past you just couldn't do that, right?
Yeah.
You'd have to be sitting at the desk doing it yourself, right? Or whatever. So I think automation is a big one. That's a huge time saver, and in that sense, time is money, right? So I think that's the best one.
I'm still trying to find ways to automate emails, texts for SMS marketing.
Yeah.
So much like posts. I was running into issues with Meta Business because I was trying to schedule my other podcasts, posts, a
Right.
whole bunch of other stuff. Like, I'm hoping I can find my way through that. If not, I'll probably look to a different posting service. But
Sure, and yeah, using a service, right, or a subscription or something like that that will like do it for you. Like a lot of times when starting a business, right, you have a lot of time and you don't have a lot of money, and then
yeah,
you slowly start making money and you slowly, you know, get your time back, kind of thing, right? So you can spend a bit of money and retrieve your time by using, you know, services and things, or you get online to like Fiverr, Upwork, you know,
Yeah.
and get like an assistant, like a virtual assistant that can maybe do some of this stuff. I've never personally used them. I've kind of looked at them and been like, yeah, maybe, I don't know. Seems like the price is right, you know.
yeah.
Pay, you know, $10, $12 an hour and have somebody doing this stuff. Sounds good, but then I always kind of worry like, how do I get them to do what I want them to do?
Yeah.
And is it going to be right at the end of the day? I don't know. I haven't
Yeah,
taken the lead.
you know, interestingly enough, like when I did, I invested a little bit. I spent around, I think just under 300. The last person, everything went wrong because he didn't end up finding me any clients at all.
Mm-hmm.
And then my time to ask for the refund had already gone out. So my first three were really good. The first one was to get followers on Facebook for your business.
Mhm.
Got me like 1,000 because it just makes it look realistic, and you need that when you're offering true services. You need people to trust your brand and business. And
Definitely.
then I hired a social media manager to create posts and put those posts out for me. She did that for my Instagram. Then what was the last one? I had hired a email marketer. She was good. She got me around 3 leads and I paid like $10 for that.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, like that's excellent return right there, right? And that's, I guess, myself is like I see how that is so beneficial, right? Definitely utilize it if you can. Right?
Yeah, like she gets the leads, she's willing to send them out an email. If not, like you just kind of have to reoccurringly do it. And the reason I did it once and not again was because I'm like, what if I can scratch these leads myself? Would I, like, I have to calculate here, like, how much my time is worth
Mm-hmm.
against the odds of like investing 10 and it not working out.
Exactly, and that was it, right? You got those leads, and then you decide, oh, okay, so do I invest my time and save the money? Do you invest the money and keep your time? And it's a constant balance.
I've been scraping leads on Google spreadsheets as well, trying to collect 50 and then spend a day. I'm almost there. I'm trying to collect them for the weddings and real estate. It's nonstop.
What's our next question?
Our next one is our final one on the section of challenges and opportunities.
Yeah.
How can students effectively network and take advantage of opportunities while still in college?
Okay, so college is actually a great networking opportunity in the sense that right now you're going to be around a whole lot of different people, right? You got teachers everywhere, right? And everybody is expecting you as a student to ask questions and to need help with things, right?
Yes.
So it's not like you're just walking down the street going, hey, sir, do you know anything about business? Hey, do you know anything? Right? Here, there's network all over the place. But as a student, you really got to prioritize it. And I think that's what a lot of people struggle with is prioritizing going and doing the work, right? Instead of going and hanging with their buddies, right? You're hanging with the same 5 people that you've always hung with. They're not helping at the moment. You need new people and new ideas.
There's the saying I'm sure you're familiar with, you will be the 5 people you hang out with.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes, that's right. So if those 5 people are not elevating you, then you kind of have to value that, right? And I have friends that I visit simply to go to New Year's parties with.
Same.
Sure. Do we talk business? No. Would I go to them to try to elevate my business life? No. Right?
Yeah.
So I see them a couple times a year, in that sense, right? Whereas here, like getting back to I guess the topic of the question, being here at the college, right? Prioritizing, going out, finding groups, finding clubs, whatever. This college in particular is a trades college.
Yes.
But there are the schools and colleges, right, that are business focused.
Yes,
right?
Absolutely.
And like, man, just badger those professors. Talk to them. Say, hey, sir, can I just take you and sit down and talk for 5 minutes or whatever, right? And 5 minutes turns into 10 minutes. It turns into 20 minutes. If you really want to be, upfront and kind about it, say, hey, can I buy you a coffee and can you sit with me for half an hour, right? Or something like that. Most professors, certainly in my opinion, most professors are here to try to educate students. And when students want to know something, they want to share it. Like, I think that kind of works, right? So I think the college is a great atmosphere for finding networking, but you got to prioritize it. You can't just go play foosball, right? You can't just go have a beer. Prioritize the networking and you'll get the reward.
You have to sacrifice like the cheap dopamine and go for
that's exactly what it is.
One.
That's it. It's the discipline thing again, right? It's just like we were talking about the first time with like, get up, do what needs to be done to get the result you want, right? Going and having a drink with your friends is not getting you the result you want, right? It gets you that cheap dopamine hit. You had fun for that 10 minutes or 20 minutes or whatever, and then you're right back to where you were before.
Yeah.
Right? So that's what it comes down to.
Have you ever done that at a certain point when you were back in college? Like you went and visited professors and learned from them? Wow.
Yeah, I did actually. I had a couple of professors in particular, and I'm sure everyone kind of gets that sense of professors you can talk to and professors that you just can't. Ones that are just a little more cold or you just are intimidated by or whatever. And and one of my professors actually, so a couple of them I talked to them, but the one in particular, smart guy, actually wrote a couple of the textbooks, for the college.
Oh, wow.
And I talked to him, so how'd you get your books published? And how did that happen, right? Whole wealth of knowledge came pouring out about how, he went through writing these things and editing, and then he had to get a professional editor to look these over, and then the publishing company, because he didn't self-publish these, he actually got a company on board. And Yeah, he was a wealth of knowledge. And I personally never published a book, but at the same time,
It's interesting.
it's very interesting, and his struggles and things and contacts too. If I was looking to go and publish a book, not only would he know what to do, he'd probably know who to call.
Yeah.
Right? So, yeah, things like that. Yeah, and you never know what these people are going to have stored in their brain, and who you're going to meet. So,
If I do ever finish at least out of the many books I want to write, I'll definitely reach out to you on what to do with it.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I don't know if I still have his contact information, but I know he was at Centennial College when I was at the college, and so they might have his information, and then, right?
Yeah.
Or you know what, you track him down, maybe you get to sit down with them, have lunch with them, and
exchange them
get
some coffee if they don't give me anything.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. A little bit of goodwill can go a long way, right? Just saying, hey, can I just, buy you a coffee, buy you a drink, buy you lunch, just sit with me, right? Yeah. Never hurts. Never hurts to ask.
We'll move on to the next section.
What's coming up next?
Next section is on personal insights and advice. I'm sure we've covered a lot. This whole
thing's personal advice.
Oh yeah, no doubt about that. If you could give one piece of advice to students hoping to start their own businesses, what would it be?
I don't want to sound discouraging, okay? I do believe that anyone who wants it can get it. If you work hard enough and you want that thing, you can work towards it, you can achieve it.
But you gotta want it bad enough.
That's right. And so having these unrealistic expectations, right? People, I think that's where the pitfall is, and that's what I would say, how is it worded again? That my advice, right? Okay, so like just don't get caught up in this idea of, the overnight success.
Yeah.
Right. Like, oh, I'm gonna. You see these like ads for Shopify and stuff on Facebook and things like that, right? Where it's like, oh, we're gonna build you a Shopify store in 24 hours, and for $20, and we're gonna flood you full of customers and stuff. It's like, okay, sounds good, but it's being marketed to you. And if you want to own a Shopify store, do it. It's a great deal. They're gonna build you a store for $20. Good, do it. But then the hard work comes in.
Yeah.
Right? You're going to have to go out and find those leads, right? Do that email marketing and do that stuff. Advertise the heck out of your Shopify store because there's a million of them, right? So having these unrealistic expectations that you're going to be somehow an overnight success, right? Or these Instagram models and stuff like that. You might be a good-looking person, fine. But, there's guys all over Instagram taking their shirts off and girls in bikinis. Some of them hit it big and some of them don't. And the percentage that hit it big are like 1%, right? So this idea that you're going to just jump on that bandwagon, it's just not realistic. But if we start with a realistic goal, right? That, hey, I would like to build a business and I'd like to see it make a sale within its first year. Okay, one sale in the first year, that's a goal. We can reach that goal. Now we just work backwards, right? What kind of business do you want to start? Okay, what platform are you going to use? How are you going to do this? Is it a brick and mortar? Okay, what are you going to sell? Are you doing a service? And then as far as making that sale, all right, you're going to advertise. You're going to go door to door and knock until someone says yes. Who knows? Whatever it is, we can find a way to get you that first sale on that first year, right? That's completely different than I want to have 10 million followers and all over the place in 2 months.
And there are people who have that, and it's like, I think it's like some people are trying to have the wrong things in life for the wrong reasons. Maybe they have the right reasons, and it's very strange. I'm not sure if I might need some time to think on that one on how to explain it, but
sure.
It's like there was even a quote like, "If knowledge was everything, we would all be rich. We really would." But it's about consistency, and what you do consistently. That's what will bring you success in life, and especially in business and finances.
Yeah.
Like this quote, I had read it on a business inspiration page, and it stuck with me. It really did, because like, what you do consistently, it's what you become.
Absolutely, it is. Well, and as far as like the wrong reasons thing, I think a lot of people get into business because they want to be rich, right? Or they want to make a lot of money. Or they see guys like Jeff Bezos or Elon Musk, whatever, they are now rich and famous. And it's like, okay, fair enough, but neither one got to be rich and famous by wanting to be rich and famous.
Yes.
They created something, and that passion project, whatever it was, like Amazon was a bookstore, it was an online bookstore, right? Or like the guys that created Netflix, they were originally competing with Blockbuster,
Yeah.
right? And basically here, mail in your movies, right? That was how it worked, right? So these businesses developed and adapted and changed into what they are now.
Oh,
Right? But when they started, they were just a project, right? They were a passion project for the most part, or a business idea. So having the right motivations, like myself, all right, I'll try to word it well. I got into business to make money, like everybody. We all want to make money, right? I'm not doing it for free, but I chose the business I chose because I want to help, right? So it's
Yeah.
like this particular business that I'm doing, I think does something great. I think this makes a difference. I think this product is amazing, whatever it is, right? So my focus is not actually to make money. That's why I decided to become an entrepreneur, sure. But my business's focus is always the customer. How am I servicing this customer? Is the customer getting a good product? Are they getting their money's worth, right? Is this something I stand behind, right? Like if you were a car salesman, right? You wouldn't be a very good car salesman if you didn't like the cars you're selling,
For sure.
right? People would come in and be like, are these good cars? Yeah, they're all right. No.
Yeah.
But when you get that salesman, it's like, these cars are amazing. I love these cars. Here's why I love these cars, because they're so great, right? Okay. Totally different than the guy who just thinks they're okay. And same thing with the business, right? If you get into business for the wrong reasons,
And you have to learn about it too. Like car
For sure.
salesmen,
yeah,
if they don't know, they take their time to go and learn about the car because they're genuinely interested.
absolutely. Yeah.
They actually want to win bad enough. And
Yeah. Well,
salesmen could do it for two different reasons: genuine interest of the car.
exactly.
Second, they want to make sales too.
Yeah.
Or maybe even three, they're learning something new.
Well, I think that's like any job, really, right? And like when you decide to be an entrepreneur, that's you're taking on a job. It's a different type of job than being hired by somebody else, sure, but it's still a job at the end of the day. And so if you don't really like your job, you're just going to be miserable and you're not going to make the money. You're never going to be rich and famous. Like in that sense, if that's ultimately, you'd like to one day have a building with your company name on it. That seems like a pretty cool goal. Have a building, a skyscraper, you drive by on the highway and you see your building with your logo.
Yeah.
That would feel pretty cool to me.
I do think about
Yeah.
that sometimes.
I do too. It's like, oh, that'd be neat to have one day. But that's not why I ran a business, right?
Yeah.
I'm not in business to have a building with a skyscraper on the side.
Because it's
really
like,
cool.
well, what are you even gonna do if you were to just focus on the building? Like,
You'd
are
never-
you in
you'd
real
never
estate
get it.
construction? Yeah.
Right? If you're focusing on where you're supposed to, what you're hoping to get, you'll never get it. Right?
Yeah.
It's like if you're focusing on your customer and your customer's needs and making sure that your business is doing a good job, that's how it grows. And then eventually you end up there just because you need that space. Your business has grown to the point where now you need a building or whatever.
If you could
know what I mean?
put it in like one word, would you say like for all of that, like the main focuses of business, not the pleasures and the wins you get out of it, but the actual struggles and efforts you have to put into them. And some people enjoy them. If you're really in for entrepreneurship, you enjoy that. You enjoy meeting new people. Some people will say, "Oh no, I'm too shy to do that," but they want to have a lot of money. They might say, "I want a business, buildings," like you said, and like I had read somewhere for businesses that have employees, it's like if you focus on taking care of your own people who work with you, your business will go a lot farther. Now, if you're working alone, the one word I was going to say for everything that you had mentioned earlier, it's like, would you say foundation is a correct word? So
Yeah,
like,
that is a good word, yeah.
because if you're getting to the top and your foundation isn't strong enough, you're gonna keep
Falls
yeah.
over. Exactly.
And I see that happen. I've experienced it too, and it's like the foundation of a business is usually your people, your clientele. Like, how do you grow it and make it stronger and make it something that could last a lifetime?
Yeah, and you know what? I think the fact is, it's always a long road to the top. It just has to be.
And you do get these overnight successes and these Instagram things, though, that 1% that just hit it off. But whatever it is they did, they provided some kind of substantial value.
Yeah.
Right? Everybody was watching it for some reason. There was some kind of a value there, right? Because stuff that doesn't have value doesn't grow, doesn't get anywhere.
Absolutely.
So that's the only way to look at business is, does my business generate value for my customer, right? Because if it doesn't, it's not growing, right? And if it doesn't grow, you're not getting to the top.
You know what Mr. Beast said? I'm not sure if you know this YouTuber.
I do know of him. He's incredibly famous. Yeah.
He even said, like, I was watching a video last night because I'm into like a lot of the things that I do on side content creation. He was talking about, like, he has a really amazing video on how to grow if you're new to content creation and things he would have done differently if he could go back in time. And he straight up on one of the parts, he said, don't blame your algorithm, replace algorithm with audience. Now when you start having that mindset, you look at it very differently. You're like, oh, the algorithm didn't like that. Let's say you're making posts for your business, even not even just content. I'm trying to do both, but it's like, how do you get an audience to like that? And if they do like it, it gets pushed out further.
Yeah.
On all platforms.
Yeah, exactly. And like I've noticed it with like Instagram accounts and stuff that I look through, other businesses and things generally, right? And sometimes a certain one has got tons of views, and then the next one or two, very few. The difference, I'm not sure. It's the same account, it's the same guy posting. He posted in a similar fashion. I don't really know exactly why one really connected with the audience and one didn't, right?
Yeah.
But delivering that value, and if you can consistently deliver value in whatever business you do, you will do well, right? And I think that's where businesses really go wrong, is when people forget about the customer, the audience, or whoever it is you're supposed to be giving value to. As soon as you direct the attention on yourself and you wanting to rise, it's not happening because it's not for you. The business is actually for whoever the customer is, right?
Yeah, that's a very good way to look at it. I'm really going to want to hold that one in my mind.
No,
it's not for you, it's for the business. And
Yeah.
for people who don't understand that, it's like, oh, well.
Well, and this is getting, I don't want to get too political about it, but this is where I struggle with people that have an issue with capitalism or, or socialism,
Oh, yeah.
whatever, right? A lot of people are like, oh, capitalism's terrible. It's like, well, capitalism, people do get greedy. I'm not saying that there are problems. There's problems with every system. But at the fundamental core of capitalism and what it is that you get customers are able to choose because the business that delivers the best value is going to be the business that rises up.
Absolutely.
Right? So when you have a whole lot of different businesses out there and enterprises, what capitalism is really doing is pitting them all against each other. And the person that always wins is the consumer, right? As long as there's competition. The problem is when you end up with these companies that get so large that now there's no more choices. Then we have a problem. So like I'll use an example like the gas companies, right? Like Enbridge Gas, okay? Enbridge Gas puts natural gas into my house. I have to pay Enbridge a bill. I can't switch to a different service provider.
Yeah.
So they change the prices, they give me poor service. I can get frustrated all I want, but if I want to have natural gas running to my house or propane or whatever it is coming to my house, I have to pay Enbridge. And that's a problem. Yes. Because if Enbridge had a competitor, right, I would have switched to the competitor, would have hopefully gotten better service. And then if Enbridge continued to give poor service, more people switch. The company that gave better service, better product, they grow, right? So in a capitalist world, in a proper one, right, the businesses that put the customer first are the ones that excel, right? And in my opinion, that's how it should be. The customer should always be getting, the consumer should always be getting the best option, and they should always have the choices, because the best option for you might not be the best option for me. Some people, customer service and customer care is worth a lot more than the dollar figure. They have money. They want, 24-hour support, phone support. Other people are like, I don't care if I can only contact you during business hours. I need my bill to be $10 less a month. Okay, but you get choices, right? And that's what really counts, right? You go to the grocery store. Oh, this grocery store has better produce. This grocery store has better prices. This grocery store, whatever. Choices are what really make it work. As soon as you have only one store to buy your stuff at, that store is now in control.
Grocery
The
stores
consumer
work with
loses.
so many, like, if they can't get one thing at one farm, they'll definitely go to another.
For sure.
They won't stay stuck.
No.
They need to operate and
Yeah, exactly. Right. So
because they'll have to sell their business, and someone else who knows how to run things will come and buy it.
yeah, so it really comes down to the being able to make those choices. And so as a business owner myself, I want my business to be one of the choices. And in order for people to choose it, it's got to be good. Right?
Yes.
I've got to deliver a good product. I've got to deliver good service. I got to deliver a fair price. That's the only way people are going to choose it.
Oh yeah,
Because if I don't do those things, they're going to choose somebody else.
for sure.
Right? So
Yeah.
the consumer, the customer, always wins when capitalism is done properly. Right?
Yeah.
When running businesses. So that's my attitude of it.
No, I really love that. It's like, when I even think like the whole, even just, this is like a bit of philosophy, but I guess philosophy and business work heavily
They
together.
kind of do, yeah.
So like the word like hate for capitalism per se. I can't recall what the opposite of capitalism is, or maybe not even the opposite. It's like something that's better than capitalism. And my friend told me this. I'm like, I'm gonna start saying that to people who are like, you're a capitalist. I hate capitalism. I'm an economist or something along those lines.
Yeah, communist or socialist or whatever. Yeah,
I
don't know what would be exactly opposite, but it's just different.
It was something
different
that was
options.
better, like an economist, because you understand what it is. It's like, I think this was like years back ago, and I think my friend said that isn't any. It is different, but it isn't any better. Like for those who know, and it's like because economists stand in a. I think it's like for someone who's like well established.
Okay.
Like they've
Yeah.
been around for years. I would need to look this up and like reconfirm this maybe on a later episode.
Yeah, exactly.
We'll bring this one
Do this
back.
again, look it up. Yeah,
Yeah.
for sure.
You want to move on to the next?
Sure, we got time. We got another 10 minutes or so, and then I gotta duck.
Alrighty.
All right.
For the last one on personal insight and advice, what common mistakes do you see new entrepreneurs or business owners make, and how can they avoid them?
So we talked about like the unrealistic expectations. I think that's a big one, right? Expecting this overnight success. No, it's
Yeah.
completely starting you off in the wrong path. Right from there, having these unrealistic expectations. So understand business is hard. It takes time. It takes constant effort. It takes the discipline, right? Otherwise, it's going to fail, right? And then knowing you're aiming for the customer, right? Just the reason I show up to school as a teacher, I show up for the students, which
Yeah.
for a lot of people is bizarre. A lot of people, it's like, oh, teachers show up for a paycheck, right, or whatever.
Why do you think that is? I think there's many reasons, but there are a few standout ones. Like,
Sure. Well, for a lot of people, that paycheck is everything, right? But just like a business, that sale is everything. You need to make money in order for your business to survive. Same with the teacher. He needs to be paid in order to survive. But why you show up to work can't be about the paycheck. It has to be about the student. That's the only way you do a good job. And it's exactly the same with business. The reason your business made the sale in the first place, right? The only way you get a sale, good product, good customer service, good business. That's the only way you get a sale. So it's kind of the same thing. And I think people focus in the wrong place. So like teachers, they focus on themselves. Like, oh, I'm not getting paid enough. Well, I'm going to go on strike. I want more pay. I will never, ever vote to strike because I'm here for the students. And I know that if we go on strike, the students are the ones who miss out, right? The students are the ones who can't now attend class, right? They're the ones who perhaps their semester gets bumped further back. Maybe their money doesn't get refunded. Who knows, right? There's all kinds of problems, but all the problems come about for the student, right? So if the college really is looking after their customer, which is the students, there wouldn't be strikes.
I don't know if this is even selfish of me to think, but I was like, first thing, strikes, like just things like you even have protests and like how much do you and I understand some people are in a very difficult place. Like if there was a strike, we would all be a victim of it. Like there would I could do everything I can to convince myself that it's no problem, but I can't finish my course. Like
Yeah,
no
it
one
would
taking
certainly cause a
crane.
problem.
Like
Absolutely.
Yeah, I really want to do crane operations while I try and start my own other entrepreneurial journeys. But, like I was gonna say time,
Mhm.
but
Well, then I imagine too, like not only would it set students back time-wise, right? You guys are all just getting that much older, right? It's setting you back another year, another semester, whatever. But aside from that, I'm sure a lot of you guys would go and get full-time jobs, right? If you're on strike and you can't be in school, okay, you go get work. Well, then the strike's over in a month or it's over in 2 weeks. Who knows how long the strike's is? So you just went and got a job and now you gotta quit your job. I don't know. It throws a wrench in the lives of the students more than anybody else. And I'm just not interested in doing that. I'm here for
Yeah.
the students every day, right? So I go home, plan my lessons, all that stuff. I'm not thinking about the fact that I'm at home right now and I'm not getting paid. No, it's for the students. It's all part of my paycheck. I'm paid to do this work for the students. So any teachers that complain about, oh, I'm at home and I'm marking papers and I'm doing this, well, that's what you signed up for being a teacher, right? You wanted to be a teacher, then you have to want to teach. You have to care about your students.
Yes.
As soon as you start thinking about how you're not getting your evenings to yourself, your head's in the wrong place. It's the wrong job. That's just my attitude of it.
No, I really love that. That's really something to think about. Like when I was saying like I don't know if I'm selfish for this, I was like the students' time is there too. I wasn't even thinking about that actually, but it was like your time, like
Yeah.
because as an entrepreneur, like you really value your time, and if you have a passion for something, whether that's helping people, like even in my business, like if someone's in a shelter, they're no artists that like you don't have too much money. Okay, let me know what your budget is. I'll work within it. Like I would never have the time to go and do something that like it needs to benefit a amount of people large enough, and I need to know what is the fastest and most efficient way I can do it. Protesting and going on strike, like even if I was at a workplace, like I could, the amount of time it would take and the amount of things that I could do, especially from the things that I've learned about myself, and I'm still learning those things about myself, like it's just, I don't know if you would have anything to add to that, but like you have to use your time so much in an organized and like efficient way.
Yeah, time management is definitely a big thing. It's a skill that less and less people have. I think, like honestly, not being able to properly balance a day and really manage everything they're doing. And to a certain point, I think too, lives are busier now. Things move quicker now than they used to. But still, you have to adapt. You gotta continue to move with it. Write it all down if you need to, right? But you gotta properly budget your time, right? Just the same way you'd budget your money, right? So that, yeah, I don't know. I don't know if that helps at all with what you said, but yeah, I'm just looking at our last two questions that we could probably do it. It'd be a real stretch because I know I said it'd be done right now.
No, like you have to go somewhere.
I do. I have a class at 3.
Alrighty. Let's see if we can get through this one. It's to start on,
Because we just got 2 more, right?
yeah, looking ahead. So in business, how do you see the role of technology shaping the future of business?
Okay, so yeah, so we talked about like the AI kind of thing, stuff like that.
we did.
So marketing, doing like copy work, like writing and stuff. Like you can write a web page and all that stuff now with AI. I think
You can
that's-
find freelancers too.
Yeah, exactly. Freelancers. I think, and this is obviously not really new, but like the internet, right? A lot of businesses that are coming up for sale now are from the boomer generation, right? Those guys didn't have internet to start up and to market and do all this stuff. And so a lot of those businesses grew organically, just word of mouth and people, seeing their signage or whatever it was. So taking advantage of technology, that is the new thing to do. And whether it's going to be into online sales or what, but like you look at some of the biggest brands and the biggest things, like let's look at Walmart, right? So like Walmart is kind of a general purpose store, very similar to Amazon now, right? But Walmart also has an online option, right? They offer free shipping options. They offer curbside pickup options. Like, so they're trying to use their internet, their website, stuff like that, to try to give customers as good an experience as possible.
They have an app too.
They have an app, exactly. So it's, constantly developing with the technology, specifically aimed at giving the customers a better experience, right? A more user-friendly experience. Okay, how can we get them their stuff without them having to get up and come to the store, right? What if people that are in a wheelchair and need help? Great, here we can use this. Yeah, order on the app. Okay. McDonald's has done things like that, right?
Yeah.
McDonald's used to be the restaurant where you had to go in and whatever. Then they had the drive-through, right? Again, they put in that stuff. They didn't implement that to make their lives easier. Now they have to take orders inside and outside.
Yeah.
They did it for the customer. Look how well that turned out.
And it even opened a few more jobs.
Absolutely,
I know people,
yeah.
a thing that I learned a while back ago, it's like people hate capitalism. Capitalism is the reason why people get to work or go to work. Like, it depends on the business model too. Like, it's like there's only so much you could capitalize on by yourself.
Well,
but if you need to grow, like, you need to work with people. And
well, and I'd argue too, like, it's the only reason that I'm wearing a polo shirt and you're wearing a Nike sweater. Like, these brands were made somewhere else, manufactured, shipped into here, and then we as consumers were able to buy them off of a store shelf.
I love that one.
None of that would have worked without capitalism. You would have had to have had some kind of shirt made locally, right? And I'm not saying that that's necessarily a bad thing either. Buying local is a good thing. It helps your local entrepreneur. Yeah. But point being that you wouldn't be able to have all the choices you have without it.
Yes, right? And there's so many forms of it. We could talk about that one.
Oh yeah, that goes on.
Oh yeah. And for the last question of the podcast,
yeah, we're gonna do it. We're gonna do it right on time.
What legacy do you hope to leave in your students and the field of business?
Okay. So, legacy. I don't know. I mean, I'm young. I'm just, still starting out. I've had many businesses and stuff, but I'm young. My businesses are going to grow, develop, change. I'll have new ones. Who knows? But I hope to create and leave generational wealth. I'm hoping that I can teach my kids, they will teach their kids, and I'm hoping that the money and the businesses and things that I have saved and have grown will not just get turned into, a couple of Ferraris and lottery tickets, right? It's like, no, I want my kids to understand how to do this and how to grow with it, right? Because I didn't start with a nest egg of millions, started with a few thousand and I had a job and I kept working. And so if my kids and their kids and stuff can start with kind of like the family business, right? And they understand how to grow a business. They understand how to look for opportunities. They understand what to do with the mass of wealth, right? Then, okay, they can take it and move with it. It will grow. Then the next generation, it will grow, all right? And they can keep going and going and going. And that's the legacy I want to leave. I want to be the first one who started,
You broke the chain almost.
Exactly, right?
Yeah.
Parents worked, grandparents worked, so on. Finally got to me. I worked hard, built a foundation, right? Built the business or multiple businesses. And then my kids now understand that if they want to build a business, how to properly do it, and they can add to that pool. They can grow it, and then their kids can grow it.
Yeah.
That would really be nice. That would be something,
I think
to not see it get squandered.
Yeah, for sure. Right just before we wrap up, I want to show you a video that even ties into what you were saying with your kids and for business. I talked about it on my last podcast, but I cannot stress this enough for anyone out there who truly will do anything to win in business. It's the video on raising warriors. Stop me if you've seen this video.
Maybe. Sounds like the kind of thing I would see.
Yeah, this is one of the best. Is this one?
I had a conversation with a friend one day. We was talking about family and life. And I asked him, how do you see your kid's future? And he said to me, my grandfather walked 10 miles to work every day. My father walked 5. I'm driving a Cadillac. My son is in a Mercedes. my grandson will be in a Ferrari. My great grandson will be walking again. So I asked him, I said, well, why is that? And he said to me, tough times create strong men. Strong men create easy times. Easy times create weak men. Weak men create tough times.
Yeah.
Many will not understand, but you have to raise warriors.
Yes.
I had a
Cycle
conversation
repeats
with a friend
itself.
one day.
Yeah. Like,
So true. So true. And yeah, we see it with like this upcoming generation, right? This generation now, I'm right on the edge of it, right? The millennials and stuff like that. So right, I was born in 1990, right there, right as the 80s kids were ending, right? And it is so true, this idea that the tough men, right, and what they build and what they do and whatever, and they end up making easy times, an easy life.
times create weak men.
And then that's right. Men that didn't need to get up and fight for it and work for it and push to get what they wanted, they're soft, they're easy. And then because they were soft and easy, money dwindles, they have no skills, they don't have the discipline, they haven't persevered, right? They create hard times. And then that person who starts out in those hard times, he's got to persevere, he's got to push, he's got to learn how to get what he wants, brings it back up again, and the cycle repeats. It is so true.
And I don't know if it's too far for myself or anyone else like to even see. It's like I wouldn't want someone to necessarily like. I do believe people like in family in the sense of family should go through like similar struggles, certain ones, not all of them. Like hardships like with people and all like, but a lot of like financial troubles, just the struggles of starting out on your own. It teaches you so much. Like I would even, a part of me does feel that every single struggle does make you the person you are.
For sure.
Even the ones you wouldn't wish upon like other people. Like there's
Oh yeah. Absolutely.
and it's like how like I just had to leave that one.
No, that's great. And yes, I have heard that one before, and I think it's excellent. Yeah,
I'm
absolutely.
really happy you have it.
Yeah, and I with my own kids, I've got 2 kids, and possibly a third on the way. We're hoping. We'll see what happens
I
there.
wish you the best of luck with
Thank you. So my kids, if they want something, we go through the store, we go shopping, we do things, whatever, right? If they want anything for themselves, they need to figure out how to afford it, how to buy it, how to get it, right? My kids are 6 and 4. And both of them on recycling day will walk up and down the street, and I just basically follow along behind them, and they've each got a garbage bag, and they're picking out the empty beer cans. Empty beer cans, empty beer cans, empty beer cans. Okay, a couple of weeks goes by, we take the empty beer cans to the store.
I'll see your
get the return,
Yeah.
right? The kids are so amazed when they walk out with, $5. It's not a whole lot of money, especially for how many hours they put in, how many cans they collected, right? But they worked for it themselves. They got the money in their hand right there. They saw the exchange. They're thrilled. And then they can go buy that thing they want. And now they care more about that item too, because they spent all that time, the effort, and the hard-earned money to get it, right? We've done that countless times, all through the summer especially.
And you won't show them any tricks when it comes to the cans and stuff. You let them figure it out on their
No,
own.
I let them go fishing through the bins and whatever and finding stuff. Yeah. Oh yeah.
Like if one day, if one day they do ever come across this video, it's like I was back doing security in Toronto, and like there would be this guy doing the same thing. I believe him because it sounded like he was telling the truth, but I need to see for myself. Like he told me he was making good money doing it. What his trick was, he would go down the streets in Toronto where all the bars were.
Yeah. Oh,
So there would be like endless cans, bottles, and he told me he would make like slightly over 200. On a bad day, he would make under 200, but most
sure.
of his days were good. And
For sure.
I found that very interesting, and he seemed pretty happy.
Oh, and there's no reason it can't work, right? And but that's the idea of trading your time for money again. You're always capped. You've only got 24 hours in the day. It's the same 24 hours as anybody else has in a day, right? So how are you going to spend it?
Yeah.
If you spend it collecting beer cans and more beer cans and more beer cans, even if you got a beer can every second, you would eventually be capped.
And
Right?
I couldn't even because I was also working, but I don't know, like the older and older I get, I'm very careful because it's like you said, you have friends you just hang out with, once a year, a few times a year, but you never like talk to them about business, maybe not even do business with, and they're good friends. I have friends like that.
Oh, they're
I
good
really
people.
love them.
Nothing
They're
wrong with
really
them. They're nice
good
people.
people, but
Yeah.
like not even, but like it's just business is strict, and the friends that really love you and care about you, even if they're not doing business with you, they understand that. Like,
Yes, yeah.
they
for
understand
sure.
like aspects of it. And I have friends who are even honest. They're like, you know, even another friend, he was like, "Gosh, I'm sorry, I can't help you out with your podcast." You know, he's like, I'm too camera shy." I told him, "No problem. We still hang out and
Yeah.
we still talk. Like it could go many ways." And Michael, like, thank you so much for
Thank
coming
you.
on to the podcast. I
No problem.
really hope to have you on here for another episode.
I look forward to it. Thank you as well. This has been a lot of fun. And I do like imparting the knowledge, and I still have more to learn myself, right? I'm a young guy. Business changes, it adapts. I change and adapt. So I'll have more to talk about years down the road. We'll do it again. Who knows when? I'll have more.
I'm sure viewers would love to have you back on. Like, if
I
the
hope so.
comments come in
Hope
and
so.
people start saying, bring Michael back, I'm gonna tell you about it. Like,
All right. You keep me in the loop. You let me know.
take care, Michael.
Thank you very
Thank
much.
you very
Take care.
much for coming.